Well, leaders are gathering in Brussels for the UN Atomic Agency's first ever nuclear energy summit. The two-day meeting comes as the push for nuclear power as a clean alternative to fossil fuels gains momentum. In a moment, we'll speak to Al Jazeera's Hashem Ahelbarra, who was at the summit. But first, Colin explains what's behind the new wave of nuclear enthusiasm.
Just over 400 active nuclear reactors produce about 10% of the world's electricity. And that's a number that hasn't changed much for 30 years. But at the COP28 climate conference in Dubai last year, countries pledged to triple the world's nuclear capacity. But how that will happen is now a very hot topic.
We need resources that are available when you need them, that can balance out a highly renewable grid, and that can provide energy for other parts of the economy that we can't electrify.
Egypt, Turkey, and Bangladesh will soon have their first nuclear reactors, and 30 other countries are planning their own. China is building 10 new reactors every year, and there are dozens of new nuclear designs under trial or construction because companies and governments want to build smaller reactors. So-called advanced reactors use new fuel made from more highly enriched uranium, new coolants instead of water, hot gases, or even liquid salts mixed with radioactive fuel, and a fleet of new designs promise to make reactors more standard and reproducible.
In the future, as companies commit to building larger numbers of very standardized designs, especially smaller designs, it gives us that opportunity to really kind of optimize our construction, our manufacturing.
But most of these remain expensive experiments while wind and solar are taking off.
The problem is that the electricity market 20 or 30 years from now will be very different than it is right now. And one imagines that renewables will be even cheaper than they are now. And so for nuclear to compete in that market will be really challenging.
The largest chunk of your cost is actually your upfront investment cost. So you need to invest a lot of money to build these very expensive plants. And then while they're running, they're actually not that expensive.
So as the world rushes to stop burning fossil fuels and money flows in, those backing a nuclear future still have some hard questions to answer.
OK, let's bring in Hashem Ahelbarra. He's there for us in Brussels. Hashem, good to see you. Why is Europe turning to nuclear energy when the initial plan, at least, was to move away from it?
This summit, Malin, itself is a strong indication of the changing geopolitical landscape in Europe in particular, because you would have said to someone about a few years ago that there's going to be a global summit about nuclear energy and people would say, no way. The trend back then, if you remember, Malin, was basically everybody was going to scrap nuclear energy plants, dismantle the reactors and move to renewable energy, except that three key factors converged and made this change of heart take place. Climate change, war in Ukraine, and Europe deciding it was about time to diversify themselves away from Russian imports, but they were pretty much concerned about the volatility of the energy market. They saw conflicts, wars in the Middle East, and they were always concerned that the supply could be disrupted. And they said, you know what? We think we have to stay with nuclear energy, expand the capacities, and hope that by 2050, if we put more emphasis on the nuclear energy, then we will be able to achieve the net zero emission and climate neutrality. However, some of the key players don't see eye to eye when it comes to the future and nuclear energy. Germany, about a year ago, April 2023, shut down its last remaining 3 reactors. The French, on the other hand, who made it clear in the past that they're going to scrap their nuclear reactors, are further expanding their own reactors in the near future. How are they going to be able to narrow the differences and convince, for example, Germany and Spain, who are going to phase out, who are phasing out, France, Hungary, Czechia, and many other countries in the European Union are going to further expand their nuclear energy? That's going to be the big question happening here in this summit.
Right, so not all EU countries on the same page on nuclear. So what happens next? How does this transition work?
So they have the target of 2050 where they want to establish net zero emissions. To do that, they are saying that for now we cannot really trust and rely heavily on solar and wind farms. And therefore, they are thinking about teaming up with the United States of America, with key players, to invest more in the new small reactors, the SMRs and the advanced modular reactors. Why these small reactors? For the simple reason, their safety features are more improved and they require less investments. The problem with these reactors, they are not tested globally, and you need to build a vast chain of supply to be able to deliver, manufacture and send them everywhere so that people trust them and put them into place. But you need more cash. You need billions and billions of dollars over the upcoming years to be able to improve the features of those reactors. The Europeans, for example, in particular, hope that the SMRs and the MRs could be the way forwards before getting to the point where they would say, finally, nuclear energy is over. Now we're turning the chapter and moving to renewable energy.
Really interesting to talk to you. Hashem Ahelbarra there for us at that summit in Brussels.